Hey everybody, Chris Smith with Pride Adventures. I'm super excited to have our guest on today, Randy Murphy. Randy is a member of California Gay Adventures and also a client of mine with Pride Adventures. Welcome, Randy. Thanks for joining.
It's my pleasure.
I would love to get to know you a little bit, have everybody that's watching the podcast. Some people are going to be members of CGA that already know you, and other people are going to be new. So would love to get to know Randy a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you came from and what brought you to California?
Sure. So I'm originally from Toronto. I moved to Los Angeles in 2001 as a special education teacher. And I moved here because of the lifestyle, the weather, the climate, etc. I'm a super active guy. So the idea of hiking and going to the beach and the mountains and travel always excited me. So it's kind of like a dream for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're a recently retired teacher,
So
right?
I'm a recently retired administrator, but I was a special education teacher for 21 years.
That's awesome. And you were drawn to adventure with CGA. What made you join the CGA?
So what made me join was a friend of mine that I went to the theater with all the time. He mentioned this group because I was having a difficult time connecting with like-minded gay men that enjoy the outdoors, are adventurous, they want to do things together. He said, why don't you look up California Gay Adventures? So I did. My first thing was probably bowling, actually. And
Oh.
yeah, and then I met Bob, and everybody was so engaged and friendly. And it wasn't about the activity or how good you were. It was about camaraderie and friendships. And so that's really how it started. Yeah,
We
and
we
then,
had a meeting yesterday, and it was very interesting because we're kind of expanding into Long Beach and Orange County to get more planning down there. Something that was brought up was like, do you have to be good at bowling? And we're like, heck no. And we're lucky if like 3 people crack 100. You know, it's for the social aspect, just to get together and see people on a regular basis.
yeah, exactly.
You're a hiker, I know that. You've gone on some of the hikes.
I've gone on some of the hikes, and I'm a slow hiker, but I'm a good hiker. And
Hey, speaking of hiking, I'm
yeah,
wearing the shirt
yeah.
that is like our experience that we did together for CGA. Our Peru trip was amazing. You hiked the Inca Trail 27 miles in 3 days. You can't say you're not a hiker doing that.
Oh, well, it's epic. It
Yeah,
was life-changing. It was so hard. I mean, from someone who has run like 18 marathons, I've done an ultra marathon, it was so worth it. It didn't matter where I finished in the pack because, you get competitive. So, I want to be in the front. I want to be in the front. And it's like, I wanted to be in the back. That way I could enjoy, and I did. And it was emotional. I think I sent you a picture of the group picture.
all insets so people
Oh
can
my
see
goodness.
it. So while we're talking, we'll show some of Peru, and I'll share that group photo as well. And
And it
I'll
was
and I'll
always,
share when Jim Hlad was also teasing you.
oh yeah, I remember that. We just got back from Puerto Vallarta. So Jim and I travel really well together. So one of the things just, about our group is you can make friendships within that group and they sustain. And it's great. So we know we travel really well together because, well, we were staying in Peru. We're in the same tent. Nobody's able to shower. You have to kind of, work around all and it was fantastic. So,
Snoring, people have the cold. There's all kinds of
yes.
things that happen. But it's interesting. You mentioned Jim and you mentioned camaraderie and stuff. What do you find, whether it's CGA or even one of our Pride Adventure trips like Peru and other trips? I see you're wearing the Costa Rica shirt. What is the vibe like on those? I get a lot of people that come to me and say, oh, I'm worried because I see your pictures and the guys are like in their 30s and I'm 62 or whatever, and they're worried about it. What do you say to those guys?
So I say the age matters not. If you are an engaging person, like you like adventure, you like travel, you like people, actually, I think being of a certain age can be a benefit. And I will share a story. When I was in Costa Rica, I did all the adventure stuff. Me and Jonathan Yee at that time, we would be going out at night and everybody's following and it's like, who's the oldest? We had a blast. And then, but what I remember just kind of feeling, not just included, but it was just like embraced. Some of these guys are like in their 20s and 30s, and it's like, are we going to have something in common? And the answer is absolutely. One of the highlights was for me was a guy named Dallas, who it was his first trip.
From
Remember Dallas?
Arizona.
Still keep in touch with him. And he's, at that time, I think he was 25. And we were all having dinner. I don't know if you remember this or not, but he, in front of everybody, said, you know, Randy, he said, I've really enjoyed spending time with you. And he said, when I grow up, I want to be like you. And he
Oh,
meant it.
what? That's
It
awesome.
was so sweet. And he meant it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
he's 25. I was 62 at the time, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
So
matter.
that's one of the things I really like about it is, for me anyway, that the age is not a factor. It's actually an embellishment, the fact that it's so diverse.
Yeah, sometimes you might have some people that are younger and even older going out at night, and you might have somebody like myself that's going to bed at 9:30. It's one of those things with these trips is that you get to choose your adventure. You are kind of paraded around when we're doing the touristy stuff, like in the vans and on the boat rides when we were in Southeast Asia and things like that. But in the evening, you can decide if you want to go out with the group or stay in, or maybe there's a couple people that want to do something else that's a little quieter.
Right. And absolutely, it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like, who's going out? And maybe you want to go out one night and not the next. It doesn't matter. It kind of ebbs and flows naturally. So although there's structure, there's parts where it's unstructured and it's fluid, which I really
Yeah.
like.
And that's
You know,
been a
because if you're
goal
on,
and I'm learning more and more in some of our trips that we've gone on, and I believe you've gone on some of these as well, where we do all the group dinners together. Now I'm kind of moving away from that to where we do a big welcome dinner and a farewell dinner, maybe a couple in between special dinners. But I want people to get the experience of being able to go out with a small group of 4 or 5 or 6, or if everybody, you know, who knows, if you just we all ended up going out together anyways, it doesn't really matter. But I like to give people that opportunity.
yeah, and it works, you know, pivoting back to Peru, my friend Vishal, he goes on a lot of trips and he always calls me Randy. He always does a sing song like that. And I said, what? He goes, I want to go to the cat park. I
Yeah, when
like
we're in Peru.
cats. And so, you know, I said, okay. And away we went. We had a blast just walking through the park, seeing all the cats that were well looked after, running around. It was simple like that was an event. And we still talk about that.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And I would say my memory with you in Miraflores, which is in Lima, was going to that little restaurant that had the most amazing ceviche. I mean, they had ceviche everywhere.
Oh, I had ceviche every night.
Yes, it was great. Tell me, you've been on a few trips with us. Do you have a favorite trip that you've been on in the last couple of years with us?
That's a hard question because they've all been fabulous, but different. I think in terms of emotional component, and it was Peru. Hiking the Inca Trail is a once in a lifetime opportunity, at my age anyway, well, maybe any age. It's something that most people would do once, and it's so spectacular.
The thing for me on that was just that I don't consider myself a backpacker. I've gone on a couple
Right.
backpacking trips. I do like to hike, but that's only been in the last 10 years. It was big for me too. I think everybody had a moment there on that Inca Trail that it was just something that if people can still do that in their life, it's a bucket list item that you should do.
Yeah, and then the group that went to the Amazon, it's like, it's magical being in a rustic boat and seeing 100 macaws in the trees. It
Yeah.
was just, and then at night, oh, I remember this. So, because I was rooming, of course, with Jim, right? And I'd wake up at 4 in the morning and he was fast asleep. Why did I wake up? Because of all the wildlife sounds. So I just remember closing my eyes and hearing this cacophony of birds
Yeah.
and monkeys and stuff.
That was what we did was we went to Peru, we did Lima, we went to Cusco, and then after that we went to the Inca Trail in Machu Picchu. That's the picture that we shared. Afterwards, we had two groups. So we had a group of 14 and a group of 15. The group of 14 did the Inca Trail. The other group did the train, which was really neat. Afterwards, we had 12 of us that got on a plane after everybody else went home, and we flew to Puerto Maldonado and took a boat. I don't remember what it was, 10 miles or something into the
Yeah, something like
Amazon,
that. Yeah.
and stayed at this eco lodge where like literally there's bugs and everything all over the place. You have these beautiful rooms that are screened in, and it was nice, you know. They've got electricity, what was it, 2 or 3 hours a day or something like that?
Yeah. And then, but they had hot showers, which was
Yeah.
great. And the Wi-Fi, remember we had to go to the common area for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and then we met those really amazing. I mean, Jim mentioned this when we did his podcast, but the Icelandic people that we met when we were there, wasn't that
Oh
crazy?
my God, they were so fun. And they were talking about pride, because I think Jim mentioned this in his podcast about how everybody there just embraces that. And like, if you just physically just looked at these people from afar, you think they're just aberrant. They were so embracing of diversity and
Yeah.
so interested in us and sharing. And then some of you guys are now going to Iceland.
There for Pride, which is going to
Yeah.
be amazing. You know, we're talking about all these trips that you've been on and all these things you've done. And, you know, some people watching are probably like, oh, Randy must be, you know, he must have a lot of money because has to be super expensive to do this stuff. Do you have any thoughts on affordability or, you know, how you kind of
Uh,
can budget these things into
yeah,
someone's life?
absolutely. And there's different trips, et cetera, that are obviously going to, but I love, first of all, I'm retired, so I'm on a fixed income, but what is a passion for me? It's travel. So for me, I try to do like one big trip a year, but with the group, it's a couple of things. First of all, the payments are standard. That's really nice. Sharing accommodations really cuts down on costs. And you know these people, so a lot of the folks, it's like, oh my God, Vishal, you're back. And you just continue the relationship. So if you go on a tour, whether it's gay, straight, or whatever, you don't know these people. So it's kind of like going on a vacation with your family. But there's new family members that show up. And it is affordable, so you can budget for it.
We have different price points. A 14-day trip to Italy is going to be a lot more expensive than a
Right.
7-day trip to Mexico. A trip to Iceland for 10 days is going to be more expensive than going to Southeast Asia. However, the Southeast Asia flight's going to be more. So, you know, it's one of those things you just kind of have to look at. And we've tried really hard to allow people to put down a deposit of, let's say, $500, and then they can do 6 months worth of payments. Or we'll even customize it for someone if they really want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people, they may want to just pay it all at 90 days when it's due, and that's fine too. So we definitely work with everybody and make it work. People ask, we've talked about age, the diversity that we have. It's not always perfect. We want to see every color of the rainbow. Everybody's invited. But, you know, how have you felt about diversity of people that come?
Oh, it's so diverse. I mean, diverse backgrounds, educational backgrounds, professional backgrounds, age. It's extreme. But what I find is the commonality is they want to be adventurous, whatever that looks like for them. You know, some are more actively, physically adventurous, but they have that common piece. You embrace that, and it's fantastic. Now, of course, is there going to be little drama here and there, and you have to navigate. It's a bunch of gay guys. You navigate it, right? And it's never been a problem.
The positive way offsets the negative.
Absolutely.
Like, there's always going to have something. If anybody's been in any relationship at any point in their life, they know that there's positives and negatives. In this situation, what I see a lot is that you have these little moments where people are a little hangry or things like that. They're long days, but it works out really nice.
And kudos to you, because you're very good at watching, and it's like you'll do a little intervention if you need to kind of just smooth things out or whatever. I think we all try to do that. You know, but you're very good, and it's noticed. It's like, there's Dad. He's just kind of helping make the family work better. You know?
Dad. That's awesome. That's great. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in the future, or maybe even something that we haven't put out there that you would really like to do with your family?
Well, with my family and my dad. I think I was originally supposed to go back to Costa Rica, and I'm getting shoulder surgery. I'm looking forward to the trip to the Galapagos.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. For me, I'd love to go back to Asia, like Vietnam. I've never been to Japan. I've never been to Italy.
Well, I just finalized our Vietnam trip for next year. So we are going December 2026. We're going to start Hanoi. We get to go to Ha Long Bay, and it's going to be a little bit more elevated trip than last time. It's what's called a G-Lux trip, and still affordable in comparison to a lot of other areas. It's going to be beautiful. Well, when we share the information, you can start looking forward to that one.
Love it.
And then the other one, Ecuador, I don't mind mentioning that, and then we'll wrap up. I think we're going to go in a day early. That way we can get the Cotopaxi tour in. And whoever wants to join me early can go a day early, because we're going to do the Quito Equator tour that day. We can't fit it in with what we have to get to the Galapagos. So we're doing the Cotopaxi tour up to the mountain. We go way high elevation just to check that out. If anybody wants to come a day early, they can do the Equator tour with us. I made my flight late on the last day that we're there, so we can have 2 full days at the Hot Springs Hotel that we're ending at. So that's going to be so nice after a whole week.
It's great to have that flexibility. I did the same thing when I was in Peru. I got there early to Lima and stayed when you guys left, so I could do some other things. I was on my own, but it was great. You meet locals. You just kind of hang around. I went to a museum. I just, it was fantastic to have that flexibility is really nice. So you can, you're not so jammed up. You can kind of just relax more.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you being on this podcast. It's new. You're our third episode. So I'm really excited about doing this. It shares what we do and how we do it, about our tours. We're going to start interviewing some people outside of Pride Adventures and CGA as well, because it's about adventure. It's about getting out. There's a lot of other organizations and groups that we want to work with. I'm excited about that as well. I just wanted to thank you, Randy, for being a part of this and our organization.
It's absolutely a pleasure, Chris. Really life-changing for me. So thank you.